Are you a speaker or a trainer? Maybe you lead Boy Scouts, you teach at school, or you're a Sunday school teacher. No matter what you do, you're going to love this class today because it's going to give you 10 ways to boost your message. You know, the most important thing when we are speaking to people is that we get our message across. We want them to remember what we said, right? I'm Connie Durham. I am the host of the Extraordinary Marriage podcast. And I have been teaching in many areas for many years. I was a ballet teacher for 21 years. I taught voice lessons. I taught children's ministry, children's choir. I taught communication classes for the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce in my area. I taught business communication classes. I have taught all kinds of things. And I always want to make sure that my audience is hearing me because I'm working hard for my audience, right? Well, a few years ago, I was really nervous to speak in front of people. So just because I danced on stage, I sang in recitals, all the different kind of things I did, I was never comfortable doing it. I hated being in front of people. And so finally one day, only about 4 years ago, I finally began to learn that I should keep my focus on my audience and the message that I want to give to them instead of thinking about myself. And you know, that's something we just do automatically. We're thinking about ourselves, our discomfort, what people will think of us. But I learned to get past that and think about my audience. So today I want to share with you 10 ways you can get your message across better. So grab your pencil, number 1 to 10, and jot these down. All right, so the first one is to dress professionally. I was a sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics for 21 years. And what they told us is you never have a second chance to make a great impression. I bet you've heard that before. But according to that, you might be speaking to teenagers. So you might need to wear a pair of jeans and a nice shirt. Or you might be speaking to children. It's according to who you're speaking to. Remember your audience when you decide how to dress. The second thing is you want to pay attention to the speed you are talking in. Yes, when we get nervous, we start to talk faster and faster and faster. I remember I was at a women's event and a young woman started talking so fast and she did it the whole time that she spoke. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm really a fast person and I can barely keep up with that. So remember to use the pause. Remember to take a breath in between. And remember to, keep a little bit of speed going on because if you get too slow, you lose people's interest. The third thing is tone of voice. I don't have too much trouble with that. In fact, I have to watch because I think sometimes I'm a little overly excited. But in tone of voice, you want to have a lot of reflection in your voice. Some highs, some lows, some loud, some soft. Have you ever noticed when you start to whisper, everybody starts to listen? Yes, they do. So tone of voice is important. There are different personality styles. And some people talk like this and they talk like this the whole time. They may be giving really great information, but there's no reflection in their voice. Do you see what I mean? Whenever it comes to presenting something to an audience, we as speakers have different personality styles. That's my specialty, communication styles. We have different personality styles, and so does our audience. So different people in our audience are going to pick up on different parts of our talk and our message. And the important thing is for us to be ourselves, right? For us to be ourselves. But tone of voice. If you're a little methodical, you might need to have a little more ups and downs, louds and softs in your voice. The fourth thing is to survey the room. Whenever you're talking to a group, make sure you're not just talking to the ceiling. You're not just talking to one person and there's like 30 more over here to my side, right? You want to make sure that you are looking around the room and you're talking to each person. And so they know that you're paying attention to them and that they are important. So you want to make sure you survey the room and use eye contact. The fifth thing is Be aware of empty words. Yes, we all use them. Well, yeah, and I'm thinking, I can't think of them, and well, it happens to all of us, but it happens when we're thinking about what we're going to talk about next. So you can't fix all of it, but maybe you can work on a little bit of it. Pick out a word or two that you say and be aware of that so you can let go of that. All right, empty words. The sixth thing is stay on track. And how do you stay on track? Well, for one thing, you want to use 3 to 5 talking points. One thing I've done in the past is I have a tendency to overwhelm my audience because I give too much information. Why is that? Because I want to give you all that I have. I want to share with you, help you with whatever, and I give too much information. And I found that many other people do that also. You want to make sure you're teaching one point. Say you're in a Sunday school class. What's the one point you want to make today? Now you're going to give 3 to 5 other points that all lead to the main point. Staying on track. Teaching one concept. Number 7 is preparation. Most of us need to prepare a little something. Sometimes it's a lot of notes. And then I take those down into 1 to 3 words and I space it out. I type it because when I go to handwrite, I make a big mess and then I can't read it later. So I type it and print it on big print, lots of space between each point. And I use those points as talking points. So instead of trying to read, because if you try to read, it's going to sound like you're reading. All right, so that's one way on your preparation. Practice, research. Make sure you have great content. I like to write it all out on a Word doc, and then I go back and cut and paste and move things all around. Makes it easier than just writing it on paper. The 8th thing is capture your audience with enthusiasm, passion, and body language. Whenever you're talking, sometimes people stand still and talk and they don't move. That's the ones that are maybe a little monotone. But the important thing is be expressionate. Use your hands when you're talking. Point. Look at people. You want to have body language while you're talking. And when you take all these things and you put them together, it helps retain your audience because they are listening. The 9th thing is to use stories. Now we hear this a lot these days, to use stories. So if you're teaching on a particular subject, you might write down 10 stories that pertain to different areas of what you teach. You never want to tell a story just for the case of telling it. You want to tell a story because it makes a point. Why? Because we remember stories. Stories are entertaining and stories are engaging. I myself, when I start to tell a story, it's like I go back to that place and I feel it. I have the emotions and the thoughts that I had whenever that story happened, and I become a little animated sometimes. But using stories in your message, whether it's for kids, whether it's for adults, whether it's for a big workshop or seminar, use stories that pertain. And the 10th one is consider using visual aids like a PowerPoint. I like to use a PowerPoint because I can use pictures and a few words, or I can make bullet points. I can make my bullet points, drop in with every click of that little clicker thing, I can make another point drop and then another point drop and then another point drop. You don't really want to put everything on there at once because they're reading while you're talking. But if you make your bullet points, show up one at a time, it keeps you on track. So I love to teach with PowerPoints and bullet points. You could use a checklist. Like today we did 10 ways to boost your message. And so you could be checking off, or you could be making notes on those 10 things with a checklist. Some people like fill in the blank. I find that distracting because I'm trying to listen to the speaker and instead I'm looking for that next word to get it in there, and I'm not sure that helps me learn, but it does help some people learn. So fill in the blank. So if you take all these and you put them together and you work on one at a time, which one's easiest for you? Which one do you think would make the most difference for you? Pick out the one that you think makes the most difference. All right, and I have something free for you today, just in case you would like it. If you are married, since that's my expertise, I am the Extraordinary Marriage podcast host, remember, and I teach communication skills. You can grab 25 ways, it's a checklist and a little recording, 25 ways to boost your marital mojo. Because guess what I found? Most people are having a little bit of challenge in marriage, some big, some small. And most of us don't give attention to that because there's so many other things that take our attention. So if you're married, grab that list, check it off. Check off the ones you're like, I do that, and I do that, and I do that. Check them off. And then look through that list and think, what is one thing that I could do out of this list that just might enrich my marriage and make it a little sweeter? I'm Connie Durham. I've been married 44 years. I have 3 grown kids and 14 grandkids and 1 on the way. Oh my goodness, who would ever imagine? Thank you for listening today, and I would love to hear from you. Connie at Connie's, I'm going to tell you my old address. I would love to hear from you. Connie at The Extraordinary Marriage.